Hey, fifth graders at Rockford. This is your kind of first virtual lecture or lesson that I have put online for you. So your task during today's work is to watch this lecture video, but I will be also asking you to take some notes and write down some definitions and things like that. So now is a great time to pause the video and get your science notebook ready. So this is the second week of school, September 14th through September 18th. I am here at my house, so I'm going to show you one of my family members. Say, Mac. He's sitting on his bed. So we are ready to get going here. So again, if you don't have your science notebook ready, please pause the video and grab it now. All right, I'll assume that you have it. Now, we are all starting our unit talking about maps and models. So we want to start with a definition. So the definition of a model is a representation of an object or system. Again, this is what I'm going to want you to write down on your vocabulary page. So within your science notebook, your first page in your science notebook should be your vocabulary page. So your vocabulary word is model. And again, the definition is right here, a representation of an object or a system. So typically this is like a smaller version of a bigger object. So here we have a picture of a model car, right? Or you might have a model train or a model plane. It's kind of taking something really big and shrinking it down. But sometimes it's a bigger version of something really small. So I'm going to move myself up here so that way you can see the picture of an atom. An atom is so small that you really can't see it. So what scientists do is they create a bigger model of it by enlarging it. So that way we can study it and we can understand it a bit better. The one that's kind of tricky for students though is the showing of a process. However, this is a model of the rock cycle, which you learned about last year in fourth grade, right? So it shows that process of how the rock cycle works, right? Because it's something we can't really see happening because, well, it's very, 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 very slow. So this is also a type of model. It's a picture of a process. So you may have seen in our science classroom or in other classes a model of the water cycle. So that too shows the process of the water cycle. But most times when kids think about a model, they always think of something smaller than the real thing, but it is oftentimes more than just that. So again, get down this definition, pause the video if you need to, and here we go. Now, we're going to talk about some of the benefits and limitations of models. Benefits mean good things. Why are models helpful? What do they do for us? Limitations are bad things. What can't a model show us? Why are they not great all the time? This is kind of like pros and cons, good things and bad things. So this is also something we're going to add into our notebooks. So if you're a cohort kid, we have glued in notes. If you are a full distance kid, we are going to make a little T-chart in our notebook for this. So again, on this next page is what we will need to copy down into our notes. So for models, some of the benefits, some of the good things is that it helps us understand systems. So it can help us understand how the rock cycle works. It can help us understand how the water cycle works. It can help us determine relationships. How does an igneous rock turn into a metamorphic rock? So it's able to show us things that we can't normally see. They're usually three-dimensional and they are fun to make. So if you ever get a chance to make a model, whether it's in class or at home, they are pretty fun to make. And we can see things we normally couldn't see, whether it's an atom that's being blown up and so we can really kind of see the little inner workings, or whether it's that toy car that's kind of shrunk down so that way we can see underneath, see on top, see inside the engine, those kinds of things. Now, some limitations, the reasons why they're not so good is the size. Sometimes they're too big or they're too small. So sometimes it's hard to find that sweet spot. They require a lot of materials. So if you're at home and I asked you to build a model of something, it might be kind of hard to find what you need to find. You might not have what you need. It also takes a lot of time to build a model. People who work for organizations like in construction companies, if they build a model of the building that they're going to build, it takes a long, long time, especially if you are being very precise and accurate like a scientist should. They're hard to make and sometimes to understand. Sometimes it takes a lot of work to get them to be able to be easy to understand. On the other hand, sometimes it's oversimplified and we can't see like the exact details. So if you did a model car, it probably doesn't have all the really small inner workings. It's probably just kind of an overview, kind of oversimplified. So again, these are notes that you're going to want to add into your notebooks, whether you're adding it to the page you glued in if you're a cohort kid or if you're a distance learner. It is going to be a t-shirt that you're going to make. Now, the nice thing about a virtual video is that you can always just pause it. So you can pause it, write down your notes, and then press play when you're ready to start again. Now remember, this is your 20 to 30 minutes of science work for today. So once you're done with this video and done with the notes, you can check off science for the day. But I do expect you to have these in your notebooks. So again, good things about models, not so good things about models. All right, moving on. We are going to add 4 more definitions to our vocabulary page. Now again, this is going to be your science work for today, so this is what I need you to do. I need you to write down these 4 definitions and vocabulary words. A map is a drawing of an area. You typically have seen maps before. This one's not a tough one for us generally, but oftentimes it is from a bird's eye view, meaning looking down on it. Now this is probably the toughest one. Cartographer. Go ahead and say it out loud. Cartographer. This is a person who makes maps. And yes, you are going to be a cartographer in science class. You are going to be making a map. Now, when you go to make that map, you are going to need to include a key. A key is something that explains symbols used on a map. This is also known as a legend. So a key or a legend. Now, a symbol is something that represents something else on the map. So for instance, a map key is one I put right here. So that's where all the symbols are located. Now this tree is a symbol that means a park. They're not going to draw all the park on every single map. They just might use a little tree, to indicate if it is where a park is located. Same thing with G for gas station, the little fire for the campground. Sometimes the symbols look like what they symbolize, right? A tree for a park, fire for a campground. But a blue line for a road, that doesn't really look like a road, but it's something that symbolizes something else. So again, I need you to write down these 4 words and their definitions on your vocabulary page. It should be the first page in your notebook probably, or close to the front. This will be very helpful come study guide time, come when you have to study for a test, and sometimes I even let you use your notebooks on your tests. So this will be very, very helpful for that. Again, map, cartographer, key, and symbol. Now, cartographers have looked different over time. Here I put a little picture of what I imagine when I picture a cartographer, a person who makes maps, right? Someone from the 1700s who is drawing with a quill. But sometimes our cartographers look a little different. These days, a lot of our maps are computerized, right? Google Maps, if you need to go to your friend's house, or if you're going to visit your grandma and grandpa, sometimes they pull up Google Maps on your phone. So these cartographers are modern day, and they use a lot of technology in order to make their maps. All right, now for our benefits and limitations of maps. Maps are easy to carry. That's a good thing. That's a benefit. They're portable, right? You can carry it with you. You probably wouldn't want to carry a model around with you if you're trying to hike on a trail. Maps can also show directions. Models don't really show directions. They just kind of show the area. They can show a super big area, right? You can have a map of the world in the palm of your hand. And they tell us more than directions sometimes. So this is something we'll really look into later, are the different types of maps. But they can tell us things like the weather. Like if you ever watch the news and see a weather map. Elevation, they can tell us how high or low mountain ranges are. And they're good for traveling. Now, some limitations of maps. They are hard to read, right? They can get destroyed, meaning they can get ruined, right? If we spill water on our map or a dog eats it. Think he would eat it? He's snoozing. Probably not. Maybe they're old or out of date. If you have ever used Google Maps and you run into construction, you're like, oh no, where do I go from here? Right? So you want to make sure that they're up to date. Sometimes you're using the wrong kind of map. Maybe you have a weather map when you're trying to get to your friend's house. That's not very helpful. Or sometimes you can't see the small details. So kind of like in a model, if your map is a map of the world, but you only need to find your way around Rockford Middle School, your map is way too big for what you're trying to do. So you want to make sure that your map shows the right kind of area, what you're trying to figure out. Again, if you need to, pause this video and go ahead and write down your notes for this one. All right, and lastly, when we talk about maps versus models, we want to figure out when would it be best to use a map? When would it be best to use a model? Is one better than the other? I think both are useful, but in very different types of ways. So in this upper picture here, I'll move myself again. In this upper picture on the top right-hand corner, we can see that they created a really nice model of a park. And so they've got a nice 3D bridge and tall grasses, and it looks just like it. If we build models and we don't have all these supplies and all these materials and little people like this, it might not look very good. But this could be really nice to present to a park city council if you're trying to get a park built. And you can say, this is what it's going to look like. Here's my model of our park, right? But maybe you want to show someone directions. Maybe once the park is built, you want to have a trail map up that shows, a bird's eye view, a look down on your park and where the different trails are. So later we are going to look at different kinds of maps and how some of them are more useful than others. There we are. And so then we're just going to see how that goes. Now, again, great thing about videos is you can always pause, you can always go back, you can always review this. But since this is a lecture video, I do expect you to have these notes in your notebook. I do expect you to start to understand some of these things and then to be able to ask questions when you don't. So again, come to class or come to our office hours with any questions you have about benefits and limitations of maps and models. And I'm looking forward to keep moving forward with you guys. So thank you for your hard work today. I know it was kind of a lot of notes. You're probably shaking out your hand. You're okay. You can do this. Again, take your time. It's your only science work for today. So thank you for watching the video. Thank you for saying hello to Mac. And I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.